All right, welcome guys to another episode of Covid Convos, and absolutely thrilled to join you. Today is the 20th of March, and thrilled to welcome Simon and Kesh. How are we, guys?
Good, Gregsy.
Good to see you. All right, mate.
Great to have you, and also Ash from the Philippines. Now, I'll give a brief bio on Ash in a sec, but first off, welcome, Ash.
Hi, thank you guys for having me.
Good to have you on the line. And Ash is from the Philippines, so we've had Nikki from the Philippines on Monday, but now 4 days later, it'll be very interesting to compare experiences with what's happening now. Obviously, a rapidly changing situation at the moment, so looking forward to digging into that. Now, also, Ash, a bit of a background on Ash is that we all met through the MAP program at Melbourne University in 2018, I believe, and or 2018, 2019. And Ash is working in education,
Right.
so we're just saying it's the first time that we've had a chance to speak with somebody in education about the impacts of the COVID pandemic on their work. So looking forward to digging into that. And I think Ash is generally known as I was just saying, a bit of an all-round good person who was always friendly and got on well with everyone. So looking forward to exploring how she's going, because this is the first time that we've all caught up with her since we finished the course together. So Ash, do you want to start us off with a bit of a background on how everything's going for you over in the Philippines at the moment?
Sure. So right now, the 20th of March is the fourth day of what's been called an enhanced community quarantine here in Metro Manila, which is the capital of the Philippines. And what that really means is it's a euphemism for a lockdown. So right now, the only places that are open are groceries, banks, and drugstores. And no one is allowed to go anywhere except to those places. And only one person per household can go at any time. And at night, although I don't think it, I mean, at first they did like a curfew from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m., but that was, I think, in the early days. But I guess it doesn't apply anymore because in general, we're not supposed to be going out. So everyone's at home, schools have been closed. Everyone is, even people who work are working home because everywhere and everything is closed basically. So, and it's the fourth day. The first few days of the quarantine wasn't so bad because it was basically us kind of feeling like, oh, it's kind of like when there's a typhoon and school is closed and it's only for a few days, maybe 2 days, 3 days, but it's been 4 days. So it's right at that time when people are starting to kind of feel it. But it's going to be a whole month of this, and I can't really imagine how it's going to be, let's say, in a week's time. But so far, it's been okay, I guess. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say it's interesting because we spoke to Nikki on Monday, and she was saying that there'd been rumours that there was going to be a lockdown. So obviously that lockdown did indeed occur on Monday. Is that right?
Right.
So,
yeah.
Were you about to say you heard it here first, Grigsy?
Yeah, well, pretty much. We're breaking all sorts of stories, aren't we?
But yeah, right at, I think, midnight of Tuesday was the start of the lockdown. So yeah, that was, if you talk to Nikki on a Monday afternoon, then yeah, that the lockdown that she was talking about actually became a real one in just a few hours time. So yeah.
Okay, so how has that impacted on your work? Because obviously, working in schools, it's changed fundamentally the way we operate. So, and I say we, me being a teacher, but not currently being there. So interested to hear how it is actually going for you.
So it's for the schools, we actually closed maybe a few days before the lockdown. I think it's been a week since schools closed. So they closed the schools before this whole quarantine thing happened. And I guess it was more of a preemptive measure. When it didn't seem like it was going to be that bad. This whole pandemic was going to be bad. So it's been a while since schools closed, and the way that we've dealt with it, at least in our school, was to move the learning online, which has been a mixed bag, to be honest, because it sounds easy in principle to kind of just, oh, let's just do this online, let's just deliver all our classes, we can record videos, or we can, upload materials, reading materials and whatnot online. But it's not the same. It's very hard to make that transition, because, and I don't know if you're a classroom teacher, Justin, but it's different teaching in a classroom and teaching online. Two very different things that we're learning and realizing right now. It's not the same. The interaction is not there. As much as we try to be online in the message boards, or just regularly chatting with our students, it's still very different. And add to that the fact that this whole pandemic is unprecedented. So it's this whole, you're trying to do business as usual, and at the same time it feels like the world around you is kind of falling apart. It's so
I'm having a few problems with Ash's connection there, unfortunately.
I think she's dropped out. I think it's fascinating though. She's got a really interesting point. Like, while we wait for her to come back, I think everybody has that sort of urge to jump online. That's our push. Like, we want to keep going. We want to keep doing. We have to keep rolling, keep the machine moving some way. So we've just decided to jump online, and we haven't really thought about the consequences of that. And like Ash was saying, it's not the same. Like, and we have to really consider if what we're trying to do actually fits an online format. But because we're moving so quickly, we're not asking that question. And yeah, people are missing out. I can't wait for Ash to come back, because I'd love to hear how the kids are responding to it. That's a whole different question.
Looks like Ash has come back. So you with us, Ash?
All right, not cut. Are you guys seeing me right now?
Yep, seeing you. So how are the kids finding it?
Oh, the kids, yeah. They're very good. They're very good about this, because from the very start, I was very open about the situation. I was very candid about what I was feeling myself. So I told them, please, this is something that we've never done before, something that we've never experienced before. So I ask for your patience. I ask for your understanding. These are the things that I am asking from you. And I try to make the assignments and the assessments as not easy, but I try to give them as little workload as possible, because I know it's very different as well, and they're also themselves getting used to the technology. I mean, it's true that these students of mine are basically technology natives, right? They've been born in a world where technology is basically everywhere. So they're very used to the technology, but they're not used to having to go to school through that technology. So I am very aware of that, and I'm very patient. So in terms of deadlines, because we still have, when they closed the schools, we still had 3 weeks worth of the academic year left. So we still had a lot of assessments. We still had a lot of lessons to go and to kind of get through. So I gave them some deadlines for things that they had to submit, but I was very lenient, and I was always reassuring them that, if you have any difficulties connecting, because we also can't take for granted the fact that that technology is available for everyone, because there are students who still don't have access to the internet, to all these types of technology as well. So the girls have been very good about it. So I have 90 students, and they've all, I would say 100% of them have complied to the deadlines that I've set for them. And they've been very responsive in the chats that we've had. So it's been okay so far, but it's just been a week. There's still 2 weeks to go, so that's kind of the big question mark, I guess.
I want to dig into that. So part of this podcast is or YouTube thing that we're doing is digging into the lived experience of people going through it right now, and digging into how, right? So there's a lot of information getting put out right now about what to do, but not so much about how to do it. And, I'm so glad we're meeting people like you, Ash, that are living the how. They've had the what for a long time, and they know how to apply it. And you just outlined a couple of things there: being honest and authentic with your students, recognizing that it's going to be challenging, giving them time and patience, and being kind of compassionate and, working with them through it. Have you seen in, the same school, some of the teachers that aren't doing this maybe as well, and compare and contrast maybe the results?
Well, I'm not, the way that our online, our learning management system is set up is that we each have our own classes. So we don't really get to see how other teachers interact with their classes. So I wouldn't know really what other teachers are doing.
Isn't that, can I just jump in there? Because I would imagine that would be something really fundamental and useful for teachers in this time, to be talking to each other about how to handle this. Is there not much of that going on?
Oh yeah, so we did have, just 2 days ago, we had like a meeting with all the teachers in the junior high school department. It was a Zoom conference, obviously, and there were, I think, 40 of us in one conference. And yeah, so that was kind of the forum that we had to talk about all these things with the students. And our principal was very helpful. She set the tone. She told us, look, these are unprecedented times. Be patient, be kind. Basically just told us all how we should be interacting with our students. And I think what's unique about us is we are an all-girls school. And that's not just the students, but the teachers. So we're all women, and all these women, we have, I guess, most of them are mothers as well. So they do understand that this is a time to be nurturing. And I saw that in some of their comments and in the meeting, and some of their experiences that they shared during the meeting. So they were very, very aware of the fact that they have to be patient, they have to be caring. But I haven't seen it myself. Like I didn't hear it or see it myself in terms of like them interacting with their students. I didn't really see that, but they did say that was what they were doing. So
it's interesting, Ash, the whole move to an online platform for me, because I've tried to, I guess, build in that component to my teaching over the last 5 to 7 years, but now it's rather than it being a complementary process, it's actually a complete immersion in it. And I know for a fact that a lot of the teachers that I've worked with will be extremely uncomfortable with that. So I think there'll be some upsides to it long term. However, I think short term, and what I mean by that is, I think it will change, or it will complement teachers' practice going forward, in that they're forced to become somewhat more comfortable with using technology. But I still, from what I'm hearing from you, and also from a number of colleagues that I'm just in contact with over WhatsApp or whatever medium, it seems like you've realised that you're missing something. It's not going to take over. Education isn't suddenly going to move completely online because it's not necessary to have face-to-face. There is still something very important with that face-to-face contact.
I do think that I do think that we're, as a collective, learning something really important here. And it comes back to, online is good for some things. It is not good for everything. And I go back to what we had on Monday with Nikki in the workplace. We've been running this myth that, we have to be at work to work. And hopefully in that area, that's breaking down and we recognize we can work more remotely. But in education, like you said, it's one of those arenas where online is never really going to be able to replace the quality of good education face to face. Yeah.
No. Yeah, and this is something that I realized personally, was that I actually missed my students. Like, I never thought I would say that, because it's the end of the school year, it's the end of the academic year, and it's like the worst time of the year for any teacher, because you're trying to get all this learning to happen, but also trying to make sure that all the other things that you have to do, like the administrative work that you have to do as a teacher, gets done. So it's a hectic time of the most hectic time of the year for us as teachers, and all of a sudden, because of this lockdown, everything stopped, and I haven't seen my students in a week. And I thought that would be something that I would enjoy, because I would have time to do the stuff that I need to do. But I actually miss that daily interaction, that kind of that live connection that you have with them, that you can't really replicate online. It's not the same. It's really not the same. I can't explain it, because it's a thing that you have to experience. Being with students.
I don't think you need to explain it, man. Like, even this, I remember what it was like having our MAP cohort together, and we're doing this online and we still love each other and it's still great, but it's definitely not the same. Yeah.
I think it'll be really interesting. It'll be really interesting, Ash, in your situation, when you get to see your students again for the first time, or when I can catch up with Griggsy and Kesh in person the next time. It'll be, it'll be quite different, won't it? It'd be interesting to see how it goes. Yeah. Maybe we'll prefer doing it online and just go back to that rather than being in person. But
I do think that, here's an opportunity to be mindful and actually savor that experience. The next time we actually get to see people, how can we just celebrate that and take, get the most out of that? Because it's true, it's going to be a really special experience when we get to be in these realms again.
Yeah, hopefully
savoring that would be really cool.
Yeah, hopefully it does bring that out and help people realise it.
I was going to say on online, I've seen a couple of posts about how when this is over, we'll do this, this, and this. We'll be dancing on the street. We'll be in restaurants. There'll be unicorns running down the street, all that sort of stuff, which is great. But I think the reality is that will probably happen to some extent for a day or two. But it's about keeping that gratitude for the things that you then have got back, that you never even thought about having in the first place. So there's actually an activity that I think it's called counterfactual thinking, which you can use to build gratitude, which is where you think about things that you've got and imagine not having them. So, and what impact that would have on your life. And then that can build, it's sort of a backwards way of going about gratitude. So, okay, Ash, that's our 20-minute time has just gone off. So is there anything that we haven't spoken about that you'd like to touch on, or anything you'd like to elaborate on that we haven't already gone through?
Does it have to be like related to education, or can it be anything in general?
Anything.
Go for it.
Anything in general. Well, it's more of a question maybe that I'm just gonna throw out there, because I've been thinking a lot about this, especially given this situation. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of fear, I think, that people are feeling because of what's happening around the world. And I just was thinking, yes, this is the time precisely to be talking about how to look after our well-being, and you know, to do things like being grateful for what we have and maintaining these positive relationships that we have with each other. But at the same time, we talk about uncertainty, which I think for me is the scariest thing. You don't know what's gonna happen. So I don't know. I guess my question is, how do we, in the face of uncertainty, um, how do we still keep this kind of positive spirit, this this um, this I guess hope, that we must keep, because it's very hard, to be honest. It's the fourth day of the lockdown, and I'm hearing so many things about how this can go on till the end of the year. How, you know, this is just the start of something that's it's gonna get worse, and all of that. So it's a lot of uncertainty. It's a lot of fear. Yeah, and I was just wondering how.
It's an interesting question, Ash. I think it's something that a lot of people are grappling with, and I would say first thing that comes to my mind is a quote. I think it's Oscar Wilde, and it's I've suffered greatly, but most of those things never happened, or something to that effect. And it's the whole idea of the fact that most of your suffering occurs in imagining possibilities or the worst case scenario that actually never happened. So my advice would be to try and to anybody and to myself, which I will then try and take because I'm horrible at taking my own advice, is basically to think about the day-to-day, focus just on one what's actually happening, the reality. Because if you start going into the possible realities right now, you start getting into very deep holes. So I would focus on living the actual reality, and how it's, I guess, following how it's changing day to day, and then dealing with that and keeping those social connections. That's what I'm finding is the big winner from this COVID Convos. It's forcing connection with people outside the house. So that'd be my two, Bob. Kesh?
Can I expand on that really quickly? Because there is a you know, an assumption being made here. And for me, I actually think this is such an important time because it brings us face to face with a harsh truth, which is that we never have certainty. We never do, right? But we've had the illusion of certainty for so long that we don't know how to operate without it. But the truth is we operate in uncertainty at all times. And it's about us just recognizing that this is the reality of our world, and that we already know how to do it. We have been doing it our whole lives. Nothing has changed. You know, you can still hope for a better future, and you can still make every single one of your actions working towards that positive future. It just happens within the context of right now, right? And we're always adapting to right now. So I don't know, man. I think it's an opportunity for us to come face to face with that. That's the human condition. Uncertainty is our life.
Yeah. The only constant is change.
Yeah.
Right.
That seems like an amazing spot to finish today, because wow, that's really deep advice, and I'm not at all surprised who it's come from. Just reminds
Right.
me of just reminds me of the finish of our map course when Kesh said, "I've got nothing poignant to say," and then proceeds to say the most poignant, deep thing you could possibly imagine. But
that's classic. That's classic Cash.
well, thanks so much for joining us, Ash. I really got a lot out of the conversation, and I hope others will as well. And I hope that we can all stay in contact, and your family and friends remain safe during this volatile time.